Allan Advisors, creating aha moments, presents Aha Business Podcasts. We provide opportunities to discover information to help you run your business and guide your decision making. The more you know, the better decisions you make. For more information, log on to allanhirschadvisors.com. I'm your host, Allan Hirsch. Welcome to today's podcast. My guest tonight is Jim Canfield, President and CEO of CEO Tools. My first question, Jim, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Is always, what motivates you to get up in the morning and go to work?
Oh, what a great question. I just love to make a difference in the lives and companies that I'm able to touch and interact with. I've been fortunate throughout my career to have the opportunity to work side by side but with hundreds of CEOs and their teams, and have been able to see the changes that can take place inside their organizations to make it a more effective organization delivering against their objectives, and also a better place for people to work. People enjoy being a part of an organization where they feel like they understand where the organization is headed and they're able to help make a difference there. And I love being a part of that.
So what are CEO tools? I mean, I work with CEOs. So what are some of these tools that you're trying to get them to do, which helps them create a better business for themselves?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll even back up one step from there, Allan, and say, they're not actually just tools for CEOs. Although certainly any entrepreneurial CEO can use these tools to run their businesses more efficiently and effectively, I really like for people to think about CEO as an acronym instead of as a title. And the acronym is communicate, execute, and optimize. And then the tools fall into these three categories. We think about communicate. What do we need to communicate and how? How do we get that message through the organization so everybody knows where we're headed, how we're going to get there, and what we're tracking to know when we're on and off track? Inside of execution, how do people know what to do? And more importantly, how do they know that the work they're putting in is delivering the results we're looking for? And then last, optimize. How do we keep all this stuff going? Boy, I watch a lot of organizations and their leaders get things going at the beginning of the year, but do they finish strong? Do they hit that finish line with some gas left in the tank? Or do they just limp across? And that optimizer about tools to make that happen.
And do they do it 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, which they really need to optimize some of the tools and things that you teach?
Yeah, I really look at it this way, Allan. If we were here to talk about building a stronger, better body instead of a stronger, better company, what's the likelihood we would talk about diet? How about exercise?
Right.
Drinking enough water, getting enough sleep. Look, we know this stuff. And it doesn't help to go to the gym once. It doesn't help to eat one healthy meal. But if done on a regular and disciplined basis, it makes a huge difference. And it's the same thing with the tools. When used on a regular and disciplined basis over time, the results they create are absolutely amazing.
So let's talk about the C, communication skills.
Yep.
What are some of the ones that you teach and you want your CEOs to follow?
Yep. Within communication, I'm typically looking at two things: alignment and engagement. We hear those two terms all the time when we hear about people management. How do we get our people more aligned, more engaged? And really the communication part of CEO Tools is about doing those two things. So let's look at the first one first, alignment. This is all about setting direction. And if people in the organization aren't crystal clear, and sometimes I use the legal term beyond a shadow of a doubt, if they're not crystal clear, like where we're headed, if there's any doubt creeps in, people will start to back off and go, well, maybe I can't fully engage because I'm not sure where we're headed. But if they're crystal clear where we're headed, and we use a one-page business plan to do that. One piece of paper that lays out strategy, tactics, actions, metrics, and goals, all in one place so people can see, hear, and know where we're headed.
So, and if they're not sharing that with their senior staff, and even all the way down to the shop room floor, if you
Sure.
can, in manufacturing, there's not a common goal.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And then work loses context. See, it just becomes a job. And quite frankly, that's not enough. When we have people showing up to just do a job, that's not enough. And that's really what the second part of communication is about also, is engagement. See, alignment says, do I know where you're going? Engagement says, am I willing to help you get there? Will I give you the time, energy, and effort? And I know what you're thinking. Hey, we pay people for that. But see, I think we get exactly what we pay for. It's that incremental effort, discretionary effort that people choose to give us or not. And what this all comes down to is trust. It turns out, Allan, there is a one-to-one correlation between engagement and trust. Simply put, if I don't trust you, I won't engage with you. And I'll only engage up to the level of our current level of trust.
And if you don't trust me, you're going to jump ship the first chance you get.
Certainly, or at least not, or worse, I don't leave, but I just hang around and don't give you enough to really make anything happen.
Right.
And to your point, trust and communication rise and fall together.
Right.
Trust and communication rise and fall together. If I need to increase the level of trust in the organization, I must increase the quantity or the quality of my communication to build that trust.
Yeah. So what is in this one-page form that you use to help businesses set out to me, I heard one speaker a while ago talk about a one-page strategic plan. I guess it's similar, but it sets the goals and parameters of where you want to go in your business.
The idea is that one single sheet of paper can deliver the answer to three vital questions that everyone in our organizations must know: where we're headed, how we're going to get there, and then what we're tracking to know when we're on and off track. And that's what the document does. It has a section that talks about our mission, vision, and values, who we are. It has an element of strategy. Those are directional objectives that tell us where we're headed over the next few years. Then we have a section of tactics. That's what we're going to do this year to advance that strategy. Then a section of metrics. What are we tracking on an ongoing and regular basis to see when we're on and off track and where? And then goals. How do we know if we win? And every one of those has an owner. So someone is tracking and is responsible for keeping us up to date about whether we're on or off track with every one of those items. So in one single piece of paper, and frankly, every year, Allan, I used to take it, I would complete it. When I was a CEO, I would have it blown up into poster size, and it went on the wall directly across from my desk to remind me exactly that. Where are we headed? How are we going to get there? And what are we tracking to know when we're on and off track?
Well, and some of it it makes sense. I mean, I use the SMART acronym.
Mm-hmm.
You know, be specific.
Yep.
You know, and you have to build this. In doing a SMART, and it's smarter, and it's the smartest, because that you're doing the tracking, the analytics, and when you do all that, sometimes it becomes a permanent, and you track it. You continue to track it.
And for us, that's what execution is about, that second step. See, execution sounds like what we want people to do, but here's what I noticed. If we went to any of the businesses that you've talked to over the last few years, people are busy. The question is, are they doing what we need them to do to get the results that we say we need to deliver the goals that we've laid out? And the only way we know that is by tracking metrics. One of the phrases I give in the book, Allan, is, if we don't measure it, how will we manage it? If we don't measure it, how will we manage it?
Well, I have no idea.
Yeah, exactly.
And neither do they.
That's right.
They need to measure it.
Yes.
And they need to track it so that they're on board. And if they're tracking it, and if it varies, they need to adjust the tracking.
Exactly.
They need to adjust to correct what they've done wrong, because it might not work. They have to have that open thought. They have to think outside the box sometimes to create a better working environment, a better strategic plan.
You use the term correction. I believe that one of the fundamental responsibilities of a leader is course correction. See, you've probably picked it up because you're sharp and you hear a lot of people talking on your show, but you probably picked this up. Every time I've said, where are we headed? How are we going to get there? That third phrase I've said is, how do we know? What are we tracking to know when we're on and off track? I've always said when, not if, because the reality is we're always off track. To your point, we're a little ahead, we're a little behind, we're a lot ahead, we're a lot behind. In other words, the only thing working with hundreds of companies, the only situation I rarely see is we're delivering exactly what we thought we would at the exact time we thought we would deliver it, getting the exact result we thought we would get. It just doesn't happen very often. And when it does, it's fleeting, right? A leader's job is to quickly assess when and where we're on and off track. And to your point, make quick adjustments, course corrections to get us back on track if we're off track, or stay ahead when we're ahead.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I mean, I've read your book and I appreciate it. I also actually remember Craig Kramer's came to a Vistage group that I was in and did some of the, which we'll get to, some of the, what do you call them, KPIs that you work on.
That's typically what we're tracking, or key performance indicators.
Right. So the E, what does the E stand for?
Execution.
Okay.
And that's the tracking of metrics and making sure that we're correcting. We use KPIs, key performance indicators, as our tracking documents. Those are the metrics we're tracking. And then we use charting to be able to see trends over time. A lot of people just track the metric itself, so they know that revenue is X, or the correlation between two numbers is this. But if you don't chart that over time, it's very difficult to assess and identify trends. And so we have both monthly charting and then a very famous tool inside of CEO tools that the work is kind of known for is the trailing 12-month chart, where we actually look at a new way of looking at trends over time that oftentimes revolutionizes how people see their business trends.
I mean, yeah, you look at the sales and you do month by month, they're up and down, they're up and down. You know, February's got fewer days than March and January. And if you compare February to February, that's well and good, but where are you going?
Right.
Where is it going to take you?
Yeah, you've done a really good job of illustrating. When people show me the monthly numbers and we chart it for the first time on a monthly basis, they typically tell me the story of the numbers, right? The story of the metrics. Oh, here's why it goes up. Here's why it goes down. Here's why it gets all choppy in the middle. I never know whether those stories are true. As you were mentioning, I've heard it all. Seasonality, cyclical, 5-week months, weather related. I never know if the stories are true, but they're always so convicted to them. Right. But when we look at the trailing 12-month chart, the beauty of that chart is, number one, there's no story. It will never lie to you. Up is good, sideways and down is bad, because what we're getting is an annual look, an entire look at a year every single month. And that shows true trends over time. And I've had so many companies who have looked at their numbers that way, who thought that they were going up or going down, but when they saw them on the trailing 12, they found out something completely different because it was hidden in the volatility of their numbers.
Right, and it smooths it out.
Yes, it does.
It shows what the future looks like. And as the trailing 12-month average, you know where you're going. Mm-hmm. And then the CEO or the sales manager, if it's the sales numbers he's tracking, he can adjust and look at the challenges that he's facing, because his trailing numbers are not going up.
Right. It's all around course correction, right?
Right.
Now the other part of execution, so that's what's going on today, and you've alluded to it. It's like, what happens next?
Well,
and we have. Yeah.
Let me just interrupt.
Sure.
We're going to take a commercial break for a couple commercials we have. And when we come back, I'll continue the conversation with you, Jim, President and CEO of CEO Tools. I'm Allan Hirsch of Allan Hirsch Advisors, and this is AHA Business Podcast.
Hi, Rick Dempsey here. As a former Oriole and Series MVP, I know a lot about winning and championship teams. Today, I am happy to tell you about my award-winning web design and internet marketing team, Adventure Web Interactive. For over 2 decades, many of Maryland's most successful firms have chosen Adventure Web as their strategic partner for web design and online marketing. I can tell you from using them personally, their search engine optimization and social media programs have saved their clients tens of thousands over the traditional pay-per-click digital agency. Visit AdventureWebInteractive.com and listen to what clients such as Hercules Fence, TriStar Electric, ABC Rental, Rhine Landscaping, Markdown's Office Furniture, and many more highly successful firms have to say. And don't forget to tell them Rick Dempsey sent you.
Strengthen, protect, and preserve your retirement nest egg. Scott Garceau here for the Stephen J. Sless Group, Baltimore's reverse mortgage specialist. Reverse mortgages have evolved to become a viable retirement tool. Enjoy retirement without monthly mortgage payments, improve cash flow, pay off debt, and stretch retirement savings. Stephen and his team can offer strategies to make housing wealth work for you. If you're 62 or older, learn if a reverse mortgage could help. Visit reversebaltimore.com.
An equal housing opportunity lender. This is not a commitment to lend. Stephen J. Sless, NMLS 298581. PRMI NMLS 3094.
Welcome back to the show. My guest is Jim Canfield, President and CEO of CEO Tools. Welcome back, Jim.
Thank you.
We were talking about the E in CEO Tools.
Yeah, execution.
The execution. You know, we have the trailing averages. Where does it take you?
Yeah, the beauty of it is now we look into the future, because what I say about execution is, although we want to make sure that we're delivering on today's objectives the very best we can, nothing is worse than working hard at something we shouldn't have been doing at all, right? In other words, think about examples like Blockbuster and Kodak, who were running great companies, and they ran them right into the ground because they were working really hard at either technologies or models that were no longer being served by the market, didn't care about it anymore.
Yeah, and just for people's information, Kodak invented digital photography.
Yes, yes.
It didn't do anything with it.
They suppressed it because they thought it would cannibalize film sales. They were right, just for all the wrong reasons. Right? And this is exactly right. They could have been down a different path. So to avoid that, we use a tool called the What's Next tool. We take every client company through each year, and sometimes more than once a year. I can tell you we've taken a lot of clients through it in the beginning of June and July as they started to look at the second half of 2020, because the first half of 2020 wasn't anything what they expected. And the What's Next tool is a way to look into the future and prepare yourself for what you think the current trends will be into the future. And although none of us has a crystal ball, this does start to crystallize some of the thinking of the team about where we might be headed, and then to take steps to take advantage of that if it's working in our favor, or to address it if it's moving against us.
I mean, you're right. In February, who would have thought we'd have a pandemic that literally transformed businesses?
No question.
Put a lot of people out of work, makes mail order so much stronger, and these businesses, some businesses, they just bury their heads in the sand and hope it's going to continue, right. And others transform what they're doing.
You know, we've told everyone, take a look at the second half of the year. By the way, it's a best practice for all of our companies anyway that we work with in CEO Tools. We call it the mid-year reset. The way I often describe it, Allan, is I want you to think about, I'm a big college football fan. I want you to think about a college football game. That coach is on the sidelines as the last seconds of the half are ticking down. 10, 9, 8. He looks up at the scoreboard. There's only one of two circumstances, right? He's ahead or behind. Now, I guess you could say they were tied, but I would consider if you're tied, you're behind.
Right.
Well, I want you to think about, as those seconds tick down, 3, 2, 1, how many of those coaches think to themselves, I don't need to say anything at halftime. These guys know what to do in the second half.
Not a single coach.
Not a single coach.
Even if they're ahead.
Especially if they're ahead. But think about how few CEOs do the same thing. I like to look at this halftime as a way to think about, what message does my team need to hear today? Do they need to talk? We're either ahead for the first half of the year, and we need to talk about how do we stay ahead? How do we make that work from this point forward? Or if we're behind, how do we get back on track? What are we going to do more of differently or stop doing in the second half to make it work? So that's a big part of this mid-year reset, and the tool, the What's Next tool, can really help be valuable in that way.
So what does the What's Next look like that you're working with your CEOs?
It's a 4-step process. First, we talk about what is, and we challenge the team to think about, what do we believe to be true right now? What do we believe to be true about our customers? What about our product or service? What do we believe to be true about our competitors? What about our employees? What about our marketplace, our industry? What do we believe to be true? What else, what else, what else? And literally I've wallpapered conference room walls with the things that people believe to be true. And we don't argue about whether they're true or not. We're not looking for the truth. We're looking for things that we believe to be true. Sometimes they'll be opposite. One person on one side of the room will say one thing and someone on the other side will say another, and they're completely opposite. That's okay. That's why people see things from different points in the organization and get a different view. Once we've laid out all the what is, then we say, okay, if any or all of this is true, what's likely to happen next? Where are we headed? Because once they've got it all out, trends begin to emerge. And as I said, things usually either are moving with us or against us.
Yep.
And that allows us to ask the question that we really want to ask in any innovation conversation, the what if question. Well, what if we went this direction? What if we took this approach? What if we tried this? And these what ifs, that's what we really want to ask. But I've found if we start there, people are hardwired to tell us all the reasons it won't work.
Well, their emotional brain fears false expectations appearing real.
Yep.
And,
but if we take them through those, when they go through those first two steps, that actually creates a little bit of the fear. So
right.
they become very solutions oriented in that third step of the what if.
Right.
And then when one of those ideas emerges, and they almost always do, that looks like a great idea to apply, then of course we say, what now? What steps will we take to make this happen? There's an example in the book of a company who literally transformed their business when it was under attack from disruption and turned it into something completely different. And they were a cab company. They were one of the largest cab companies in America, and along came Uber. Not good news for them. And out of frustration, during the what's next exercise, or an exercise like it, one of their employees said, it's frustrating. They have cars, we have cars. They have drivers, we have drivers. The only difference is they've got that software program that connects the passenger directly to the driver. And one of their other team members said, wow, is there anywhere else we could do that? Well, the answer turned out to be something I'd never even heard of. Non-emergency medical transportation. See, there are millions of people every day that have to get from their home to a doctor's follow-up or a hospital visit, and they've been told you cannot drive, either because of the procedure they've had or because of the medication that they're on. And at the time, pre-Uber, other than their friends or family, the number one way they made that journey was by cab. So they built a platform that was very Uber-like, and that was the what if. What if we built a platform that was similar to an Uber-like platform that got a cab there quickly? Then they had to say, how would we do that? What now? We're a cab company. That's a lot of drivers and dispatchers, not a lot of programmers. They ended up putting that company in San Diego, where Qualcomm was there, and they could actually recruit people from Silicon Valley to come down to sunny Southern California and raise their kids in a little surf town outside of San Diego. So today, instead of being a $40 million cab company at risk, they're a $250 million software company with a big audacious goal to be $1 billion company. And who knows, they might make it.
So and that's all part of this rethinking during in this coronavirus. I mean, I have one company that was in an airport shop. It was closed. What are they supposed to do?
Yep.
Well, they collected emails they never knew what to do with. Well, they started remarketing to the email list, and they created a whole new market for themselves, and they're making more money now than they did for the shop.
We've seen this over and over and over. We've seen people redesign their businesses, rethink their businesses, rethink their marketplaces, because they had to. And there's sometimes there's nothing better than to have to have you take changes that you thought about for years, or maybe worried about losing a set of customers that now were gone, and you had to do something different. And that's the What's Next tool can help do that.
Yeah. So ultimately, the O in CEO is what, and how do you react to it, and how do you deal with it?
The O is about optimize. And in our vernacular, optimize simply means, how do we keep it going? How do we have it hit the finish line? I do little 5K races to stay in shape, and nothing big, and I'm not that good at it, but I enjoy doing them, and it keeps me going. And what I always say is, those races are 3 miles long, give or take. And I always say, nobody quits in the first mile. In fact, if those races, a lot of people go off the starting line like they're going to hit a personal best or a personal record every single time. But what makes the difference is the last mile. How do you finish? How do you finish strong? How do you hit that finish line with some energy left? Hit it in a full stride. That's what makes the difference. And that's the analogy I would use with teams many times, is how do we finish strong? The plans look great. How do we finish strong? And there are 3 parts to that in the book. The first is people. Number one, the easy part of it is, do we have the right people on our team, in our organization?
And in the right positions.
In the right positions. And Jim Collins has helped us understand that for years, right? We can all almost repeat back in unison his famous line about the people. Get the right people on the bus. See, right. You're saying it with me.
Right.
And get them in the right seats.
Right.
But you know what? The companies that he was looking at for good to great were Fortune 500 companies. They had thousands, tens of thousands of employees. What a great talent pool to draw from to put people in seats. Most of the companies that I work with and that I see, entrepreneurial companies, the team they went on the field with in 2020 looks a whole lot like the team they went on the field with in 2019. The question is, will they get a higher level of performance out of those people in 2020 than they did in 2019? And the only way to ensure that is peak performance coaching. And we have a coaching tool inside of CEO Tools that there's not much I can guarantee, but I believe I can guarantee if used on a regular monthly basis with team members, it will improve their performance. So this is about getting the most out of the people that we have, not finding new people. And if we do bring new people in, how do we successfully integrate them? Because I think that's another big opportunity that's often missed, is the onboarding process that companies go through. I write about it fairly extensively in the book. The second part of it is, how do we create processes and systems that deliver reliable results over time, instead of just depending on a few good people who know what to do?
Right.
I watch smaller companies all the time who, because they've got a person in a position for a long time, they never identify, document, and then improve the process that they're using. Because the other part of identifying process and building processes and systems is creating a continuous improvement loop that has them get more effective and more efficient at delivering those outcomes. One of the companies I studied for the book was a company called Danaher. I wanted to see how large a company I could find who uses the 7 principles we talk about. And Danaher uses all 7. And they really focus on this whole idea of continuous improvement. They're a $20 billion company. That's billion with a B. 26 different operating units. And they believe that their process of ongoing continuous improvement is what's driven all of their results. How good are those results? They've beat the S&P 500 20 out of 20 years in a row. And I think one of the best operators of businesses out there, certainly has built more value than just about anybody else, is Warren Buffett at Berkshire Hathaway.
Yeah.
They're one of only 5 companies that have beat Berkshire's results 10 out of 10 years in a row. And they attribute their continuous improvement process, continually building processes and systems and then improving them over time, as the sole reason for that.
So what are the 7, I forget what you said, but the list of 7 things that help companies optimize what they're doing?
So set direction, communicate to build trust, track metrics and provide ongoing feedback about those metrics, look into the future and create an outcome that works for you, attract and coach winners inside your organization, create an autonomous organization that's built around processes and systems. And number 7 is celebrate successes. Make sure that there's an ongoing program, a reward system of rewards, recognition, and appreciation, so that the people inside the organization know that what they do is meaningful and that the organization appreciates it. It turns out if there's a secret sauce in the whole process, Allan, the silver bullet, that's the one that turns out to be it.
Absolutely. In challenging leadership, they list 5 categories after doing research of 80,000 leaders around the world. And the 5th one, the most important, is acknowledging successes. You thank people for doing something good, and you can do it. You can do it personally. You can do it publicly, but it's about thanking people. people feel good when they're thanked.
We say acknowledge effort, reward results. See, even if we didn't hit the targets, if people were working hard at it, we've got to let them know that we appreciate that. And when we do hit the targets, let's be sure we're really letting people know. Listen to this. At the end of last year, I've felt this way for a long time, but it was always kind of felt like it was my opinion. At the end of last year, one of the world's largest and most well-respected HR consulting companies, O.C. Tanner, did a study of people who had left their jobs voluntarily in the last 12 months, and they wanted to know why. The number one reason, as you'd probably expect, 85%, I didn't get the recognition or appreciation I thought I deserved for the contribution I made. Pay was third. It wasn't even close, and everybody thinks it's about pay.
It's not, and pay might even be 10th on the list.
Get this, out of that same survey, the ones who said, the 85% who said they left because they didn't get enough appreciation, more than half of them said, I didn't get one word, not one word of acknowledgement over the last 12 months about the performance that I did.
And that's why people leave. People forget that it's acknowledging them. It's giving people the idea that they're trusted and they work and they do their job and they do it successfully. And leadership just does not appreciate it. And they move on to where they're appreciated. And it's not about salary.
I agree with you 100%. So many times I heard top performers who are going to leave. We all do the same thing, right? We have a top performer who's going to leave, and what do we do to try and keep them?
Give them more money.
Right? Every time. And here's what I heard over and over before I finally figured it out. They would say, no, Jim, it's not about the money. It's a better opportunity or a bigger challenge, right? That's what I'm going for, a better opportunity, a bigger challenge. You know what I've decided, Allan? That's code. That's code. They're speaking in code.
Yes.
The code is, I didn't get the recognition and appreciation I thought I deserved from you. I'm going to look for it somewhere else.
Right. That's exactly right. Anyway, this has been great. And I really want to thank you for joining me today for this podcast. How can the listeners reach you?
Our website is pretty simple. It's ceotools.com. And my email address is also pretty simple. It's jim.canfield@ceotools.com.
Thank you again very much for being on the podcast. And I wish you luck, and we'll stay in touch. I'm Allan Hirsch of Allan Hirsch Advisors, your host. Reach me. Visit my website, www.allanhirschadvisors.com. You can listen to the podcast where you get your podcast, or within a couple of weeks, it will be on YouTube as well. So, and I'm Allan Hirsch, and this has been AHA Business Podcast.